everyone and welcome to my April reading picks. There have been 3 books this month that I have really adored and would like to share them with you now. The first book on my list this month is Starborne by Lucy Hunson. This book is super pretty. That's not why I liked it, but I just felt the need to point out that this book is gorgeous. And extraordinarily big too. It looks very impressive on my bookshelf. So Starborne is a very high fantasy book, and it's actually quite hard for me to narrow it down into a short summary for you guys because there's just so much going on all the time. The story starts with a 17-year-old girl called Kindra, and she's about to go through this ceremony which will tell her her true name and basically what her destiny is in life and what path she needs to follow. And during that ceremony something goes terribly wrong, and a relic that the town uses to tell people's future breaks whilst Kindra is receiving her reading, and so the whole town basically blames her for that. The story then follows Kindra as she is taken away from her town by a couple of strangers after a storm event called the Breaking destroys her hometown, and we basically follow their journey to the town of Naris, which is where the 2 strangers come from. And we learn a lot about Kindra and her life throughout the journey. She starts to understand more about herself, and we learn a lot more about the 2 people that have taken her as well. Now, like I said, the book is extremely high fantasy, and it took me a while to get into the story because it was such a new world, but the world inside the story is fantastic. And there is a huge variety of characters to keep you entertained. Not all of them are good, but even the bad characters are still interesting to read about. It definitely left me wanting to read the next book to know what happens next, because there are actions that will have repercussions in the future, and I can't wait to see how that all unfolds. I was so grateful to get the chance to read it and review it, and I'll post my review in the description area below if you want to check that out. The second book that I have adored this month is The Art of Being Normal by Lisa Williamson. This book was published at the start of the year, I think in January, but I've only just got around to reading it now, and I am so glad I read this book. If you remember, in March I read a book called A Boy Like Me, which was about a transgender teen. When I did my reading picks for that month, I was specifically saying that I really wanted to read more books that had transgender characters. And then I came across The Art of Being Normal. This book mainly follows the story of 2 different characters. The first character is David, who was born a boy but desperately wants to be a girl. And the second character is Leo, who is a new student to David's school. An event happens early on in the book that leads to the 2 of them being put in detention together, and through that they form a very unlikely friendship. Even though Leo seems like quite a cold character at the start and he doesn't have any desire to form any friendships, he finds out that he has a lot more in common with David than he thinks. And this leads to the 2 of them forming a bond that is just really beautiful to read throughout the book. This is a story that I don't really want to say too much about because I am sure so many people would really want to read it for themselves. So at the moment I'm not going to spoil anything at all, but I think at some point I will definitely do a discussion video about this book because there are just so many aspects of this book that I want to talk about. Again, it is a book that isn't just about transgender issues, it's about 2 characters going on individual journeys that happen to cross paths. I really adored the characters throughout the book. They were fabulous. David is just too cute throughout the story. He really is adorable. I am using male pronouns to talk about David because that's what's used in the book. It was heartbreaking to read about how much he wanted to be a girl, but he does have 2 friends in the book that stick by him and support him and know everything that he's going through, which is really good because I think he would have been lost if he didn't have anyone. But there is a great variety of characters and it just makes for fantastic reading. I have heard a lot of buzz about this book online, and I'm sure you've probably heard about it as well. So I would definitely recommend this book to everyone because it is a book that does live up to the hype. So my third and final pick for this month is An Island of Our Own by Sally Nichols. This is actually my advanced copy of the book, so that's not the cover. The cover is more like that, but colourful. In fact, I think I have a postcard of it on the wall, but it's blurred out so you probably can't see it. So An Island of Our Own tells the story of siblings Holly, Davy and Jonathan. Both of their parents have passed away, so Jonathan has had to give up going to university to look after his younger siblings. And he's not resentful of that fact at all. He is a very lovely and understanding character. And I know that there are a lot of young people that have to do that in real life after the death of parents. So I think he was a very strong character throughout this book. The three of them are struggling for money a lot at the time when the book begins, but they have a great aunt that passes away and leaves them some jewellery. But their aunt was very, very paranoid, and she was convinced that her husband was going to steal all her money when she died. So she's hidden everything, basically. So no one can actually find the jewellery that has been left to the siblings in the will. The only clue that they have as to where the jewellery might be is a set of Polaroids given to Holly by their aunt in the hospital, and these Polaroids show very, very different locations. And Holly then convinces Jonathan and Davy to help her track down the locations, and hopefully it will lead them to the jewellery. So basically this book is a treasure hunt, and it was super, super fun to read. I knew that I was going to like this book pretty much from the first couple of chapters because there was a lot of little geeky references inserted into the book, and I am a massive geek myself, so every mention of Star Wars and the Hunger Games and everything else I mentioned in this book I was just made up with. One of my favourite scenes from this book is when Jonathan decides to create a bedtime story for Davy and Holly, and he basically just takes characters from everything I love and puts them into one story, and that was like the best 2 pages in this book for me. It is a very, very funny story, and it's just packed with amazing characters that they meet on their journey. I really love books like that follow characters on a journey where they get to meet completely different people. So if you're looking for a book that's going to put a smile on your face, then this is definitely the one to read. So that was my top 3 reading picks for April. If you would like to know any more about these books, then I've reviewed all 3 of them on my blog, so I'll post links in the description. Thank you for watching, I'll see you next time, bye!